So you didn't have to go to school to be a follower of Jesus. You just had to have the heart to receive what Jesus had to say. Jesus came into this world able to erase all confusion, I believe, to welcome and to include everyone who had a heart to receive, a soul that desired to be alive, and a mind that was fully committed to serving the Lord with all their might. And so Jesus being who Jesus is, has come into the world of the Pharisees and Sadducees in Jerusalem, as well as to us, to take away the mystery of getting closer to and experiencing the fullness of God. He was able to articulate to those who follow him that study, work, alms-bearing, prayer, and good behavior are necessary and important towards exercising your faith in God. Yet none of these things will enable you to obtain the nature of God. See, the Lord our God has constantly tried to open the eyes of God's people to see the creation of a new community. The beginning with Adam and Eve and the covenant shared with Abraham, the trials of the people in the wilderness, and countless other stories found in Holy Scripture. Jesus came in the world to build a new community. Don't you recognize that community is necessary because no one person can survive by themselves? The more people are joined together in a common purpose, the greater the shared reward. Never allow mayhem to enter into what God has created for good, sisters and brothers. Find that which is causing confusion and remove it like a cancer that brings sickness to a body. When people lose sight on what is important or what matters the most, then dysfunction, chaos, and turmoil can begin to seep into the fabric and erode the unified nature of what God ordained to be community. Jesus was just sharing with the Pharisees since they want to challenge him. He sat down with his friends, the disciples, and the crowds who had gathered, and he told them that being obedient to the greatest and first commandment of loving the Lord your God, as well as the second of loving your neighbor as yourselves, is like the sinew and tendons that would bring together a disjointed and fractured body that God had created. Love was to be more than a feeling. It was to be the adhesive that cannot always be seen, but is prevalent in a body, a family, a community, a congregation, a nation, and the world that has an unwavering commitment to God. I heard a story of a man who wrote that an enormous conflict between words and deeds is prevalent today. Because everybody talks about freedom, democracy, justice, human rights, about peace and saving the world from you fill in the blank. And at the same time, everyone, more or less consciously or unconsciously, serves those values and ideas only to the extent necessary to serve him or herself and their worldly interests. Their personal interests, their group interests, their power interests, their property interests, state or great power structures. So the power structures apparently have no other choice than to seep deeper into the vicious maelstrom. I began to think about that, and I started to think about what Jesus was really coming to the world to do. Eliminating the walls that created power structures, eliminating the walls that had people fighting and going against one against the other. If Jesus' people, the people of Israel, God's chosen people, were called to be holy people through showing love and respect for one another and towards others. For holy communities are manifestations of God's rule in the world. Communities that are concerned with compassion, justice, and care for all of its members, especially the vulnerable. You should be able to look to your neighbor every time you see them and say, "You shall be holy." You should be able to look at those who you have differences with and say to them, "You shall be holy." Why don't we try it right now? Why don't you look to your neighbor to your left and say, "You shall be holy." Turn to the person to your right and tell them the same thing. "You shall be holy." You shall be holy. There you go. There you go. How did that feel to say that to somebody? How did it feel to hear somebody say to you that you shall be holy? It's probably something that many people have never said to you. It's probably something you probably never said to anybody else. Because I know some of you looked at your neighbor to your left and to your right and said, "I know you pretty well." This man's trying to tell me to tell you to be holy.